This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
Okay, milady. Juilliard. We gotta start there.
We're starting there.
I mean, was it always the dream? Like, I have a little girl that wants to go and be an actor, so she Googles all the time.
Yeah.
You and I are close in age, but not that close.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if it was like, I'm in New Mexico and I'm going to Google what program am I going to go to for acting, or how does this become on your radar?
That is such a good question. Wow. I don't know where this just came from, but I'm realizing it's the truth, is I was obsessed with the Babysitters Club when I was little. And of course, I was obsessed with the one black girl in it who was Jessie, who is the dancer. And I think she wanted to go to Juilliard for dance. And I think that's maybe how I knew about it.
Like in the show she wanted to go?
I read the books, like the series. And so I think that's how I knew it was the thing. But then my story is that my mother was convinced I was going to get us out of poverty by being a classical pianist. So she put me in piano when I was really little. So I was just like supposed to be like a piano player. So she was like, when I was 15, she was like, and now you're going to go to Juilliard. So I auditioned
for a piano, not for
piano. So I auditioned and was not good enough. And I did not get in. And I was like, oh my God, that was super traumatizing. And then very long, winding story. I ended up pursuing acting, went to NYU for undergrad, and then was like hustling in New York, and then realized, I think I had this realization that I was winging it a lot, and I was relying on whatever I had. But and I still have a lot of imposter syndrome, but I realized if I actually want to do this and I want to be an actor, I should try to be the best actor I can't. Like, why aren't I just really trying? Like, why am I just faking it and being like, I'm waiting for someone to find me out? Like, I should know my shit, basically. So I auditioned for grad school, and Juilliard was the only one I got into. So.
No, what was the time difference between first time Juilliard for piano and next time?
I think 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 years, yeah. Which is so crazy that it was such a full circle thing of being like, I'm going to play piano. And then it was like, and then I was like, never again. I enter this build. Like, they are going to regret it. And then I was like, hey, guys, here's my money.
Hey, by the way, would you like to take my money? Okay, yeah. Then I love hearing, if you can see it, you can be it. So you got to see somebody or got to read about somebody possibly going and doing this for acting, right?
She was a fictional character, but she did it. She wanted to go.
Google that and you could find it. But also,
true.
I think every actor has imposter syndrome. I've talked to so many. I am one. It depends on where you are. And I find it interesting, when I've talked to people that have gone to conservatory or have gone specifically for acting, I always like hearing, okay, what did that program do for you? Did it give you confidence? Did it actually give you the skill? So I'm curious for you, did it actually make you feel like you came out of there, you're like, now I know what I'm doing. Now I'm going to get hired and here we go. Let's do this.
Oh my God, I wish. In some ways, yes. Like in some ways, I think I needed a space where I could actually just work and fail and to know in my bones. Like, I remember a mentor that I had, because I did a Williamstown Theater Festival for a few summers before. And this woman who worked there, who wanted me to go to grad school, or was encouraging me to go to grad school because I was pretty confused. She was like, have you played Stella have you done a Streetcar? Have you done Chekhov? And I was like, no. It was all these things that I hadn't done, but I was just gonna figure it out later. And honestly, I remember my third year, I was like, I need to play Stella. I need to do a scene, and just knowing after 4 years that you've done 8 Shakespeare plays and 3 Chekhov plays, and you've developed all these new plays. You just have it in your bank, and that when the imposter syndrome comes up, you can just go back and say, no, I did this, or I learned this. I was given tools. There's something I can reach for.
10,000 hours. Some people get it immediately on set. Some people get out here, don't have their training.
Yeah.
Get a job 6 months later, from Monday through Friday. I don't care what it's soap, whatever, but you're on the ground training and getting hours. Now you can do it in a school form where you don't have to do anything else. Now I count self-tapes as the hours, but if you're relying on the audition, it's going to take a long time to accumulate your hours of understanding camera, of understanding character development, of understanding script analysis, or even just story.
You are speaking my language so deeply, because I firmly believe I don't think first of all, I do not think school is for everyone. I do not think you clearly do not have to go to school to do this. And I also think school can mess with some people's magic. 1,000% saw that happen. So I think you're exactly right. It's just a way, it's a path to getting those 10,000 hours, or just putting in the work, or just getting the notches on the belt. And I think that's what it was for me. So in that way, it was very helpful. In other ways, it was very traumatizing. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that about Juilliard. Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like you have your battle wounds. So in some ways, I feel bad talking bad about it because it's given me a lot, but also was the truth. So
do you think because it mentally strips you, it takes you down, it's more of the mental game, which kind of gets you ready for the industry? Because
in a way, yes, in a way. But yeah, and I will say, and I just told this story on another podcast, but I think it's relevant, which was a teacher of mine told me at one point, you have everything you do is reviewed by, there's say 25 faculty. So every time you do a show, you sit in a room and you hear from each person what they thought about you and what your performance was. And obviously they've all talked, so they all have a similar idea. And you're with 17 people. So they just start to give you these personas, or they start to give you these, you're this girl, you're this guy. Yeah, and it's hard to get out of that. And so for whatever reason, my first or second year, I'm a piano player. There's literally a piano right there. And a girl in my class had to play piano for a show, and they were going to set her up with someone in the music school. And I said, I'm literally right here. Why don't I teach you? So I took time to teach her, and they became obsessed with the fact that I was a teacher and I was a helper, and I wasn't a star. Like I wasn't like a grab it and take center stage. And then one teacher became convinced I was not an actor, I was a teacher. And then went so far to say I should be maybe a costume designer. She basically told me in a room, like, I don't know that this is for you. Like some people, it's not for everybody.
Interesting, because you have the cutthroat mentality of me, mine, which is really interesting because even having this podcast, right? As an actor, I support other actors. There's nothing I actually love more than watching somebody else click into any tool and be able to be fully available. I get joy from that. I don't have that mentality of, no, it's mine. Right. But that they would breed, that is the norm, that you have to be more cutthroat in order to quote unquote make it, that you have to be like, no, mine. This is a creative collaboration, hopefully, I think for the best.
And I'm sure I'm sure this feeds your acting and feeds when it's time for you to take up your space. You're drawing from it. I think there's so many different kinds of actors and artists, and some people are those people and they're magnetic and magical. And then some people, they're drawing their energy from a different source. And
yes. But so they put you in a teacher role versus seeing you as performative or supportive, or looking at the overall story, project, performance as being like, let me help you make this the best thing ever, which I'm just going to jump ahead. Look at all of the shows that you've been a part of. They're all ensemble, beautiful shows that allow you to be an integral part of everything, but also be a teacher and a student in all of those surroundings.
I love it. I'm going to cry.
I love when people get notes at the beginning of their career. You're never going to make it on television. You're like, got a resume to prove that.
Yeah, it was such a crazy moment for me. And I've had a few of them where I'm going to go out of my way and tell you that I just don't think this is for you. And they're like, I'm doing you a favor in a way. And what it does is it fucks me up. And then I'm like,
take it for a second? Yeah.
Oh, I take it very personally. And then I usually come out and I'm like, no, you don't get to tell me that. I will tell myself that. when I've decided I'm going to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Not you. That's not your job.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Anyways, moving
I reject.
I would love to hear from the rest of the peanut gallery. What do you guys think? And also,
What do you think I should do with my life?
isn't it
Yeah.
interesting that we always we have to train our brains to not attach to that one negative feedback that we hear. I wouldn't be surprised if all the other teachers gave you amazing feedback, but we're going to remember that one that tries to or tries not to see you or whatever.
Yeah.
So once you get out of Juilliard, do they have the showcase for you? Are you with the same agent manager since the showcase?
I'm not. So I had this interesting thing that happened where I randomly booked a pilot my last year of school.
Oh, I want to hear about this. Did they let you audition? Because I thought you're not allowed to.
Yeah, and their policy. So Juilliard is notoriously, they will ask people to leave, and if you book a job or something, you're not allowed to audition. But they're lenient the last year because they are essentially trying to prepare you for the real world. And so you have like master classes with casting directors in New York, kind of leading up that whole year. And I think it was around March. So, you're graduating in May. And we had a class with Telsey the week before. And then they send you on a silent retreat, Juilliard does, which is, I don't think a lot of people know about this, but they send the fourth years on a silent retreat. So you're with these people that you've been just talking nonstop with for 4 years. And then they make you just be silent at a monastery for 3 days, I honestly recommend it to every actor. It's fascinating just to not speak for 3 days.
But it's just with the people. It's not the master class with casting. It's
sorry.
casting was there before, and then the next thing that followed.
So I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I basically went from this workshop with Telsey, my whole class did, and then they sent me an audition, like a real audition. And it was my first TV audition. I was like, cool. And then we went directly into the silent retreat. So I couldn't run lines or anything.
You just got to think about the character and think about the lines. Did you actually at all, or did you let yourself
I would
detach?
run them in my head, but I couldn't really run them or anything. But I really got a lot out of that silent retreat. It was very meditative, and it's really crazy what happens when you stop talking and there's just your thoughts. And then we landed, I think, on a Friday at 2 p.m. at school, and then my audition was like at 3 or something. So I just got my backpack, went to this audition. I felt very calm, and I was just like very zen and just cool. This is a fun experience. And then that night I'm like chilling with my roommate in my Brooklyn apartment, and this guy from Telsey calls and he's, hey, we are going to test you for this pilot. And I was like, what? I just genuinely was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know. He was like, I'm going to set you up with an agent at Gersh, and she's going to negotiate your contract, and then you're going to fly to LA on Monday, and you're going to test, or on Sunday, and you're going to test on Monday. And I did not know what any of these things. I had a full heart attack.
Yeah.
So this agent negotiated the contract, and then I flew to LA by myself, was put up at the Hilton. All of this stuff was just basically thrown into the deep end of the pool.
And at this point too, you had to audition in person, right? This is way before taping land. And to walk right into a test, was it studio and network? You have 60 seats staring at you.
It was that thing where you're at the hotel, and then you have to go to the studio thing, and there's 20 men. Men. one woman and 20 men.
One woman. That one woman that's going to tell you might be great at.
Yeah, exactly.
But also you had to sign your contract before too. Going to Juilliard, paying the fee that you did to go to grad school.
Yeah.
And then signing a contract that tells you how much money you might be making. I really want to know, as a grad student still, if that silent retreat is still sitting in your body, or how do you, I hate that. I hate signing my test before, where I'm doing numbers in my head where I'm like,
crazy.
If this goes for 7 years, I'm a gazillionaire. I could get rid of my one car. I could drive back to New York. My brain goes into mathematics.
And then when you don't get it, you're like, oh, or not.
Back to my Honda Civic that has no fender.
Cool. That wasn't real.
Totally
that was
fine.
Just a fun thing I signed.
Yes. But is that what you had to do? You had to sign?
It was so out of the realm of possibility that I was getting this. And I think I was in such a hyperdrive I was so outside my comfort zone that I didn't know what I was signing. I was like, okay, sure.
Yep.
And I also went to NYU for undergrad. So just to be transparent, I think I owed over $350,000 in school loans when I graduated from both theater schools. So I was so screwed in a way that I was trying not to look at that number at all because I was so screwed. And in retrospect, I should have looked at that number, but honestly, maybe the delusion helped me. But so I just wasn't thinking I was going to get this job. And then something happened. You do the studio test, then the agent calls, oh, you're going to make it to network. And then you go to a different location, 20 more people, probably 30 people in suits. And then at that point, I started thinking, someone has to get this job. There's three of us. And I knew, so the other crazy thing is my classmate was also cast in the same pilot.
Already cast?
Yeah, I didn't tell him that I was even auditioning or anything, but I knew it started in like a week. And I was like, wait, someone has to play this part and someone has to get it. And there's three of us. And I think something kicked into gear. And I was like, I think it could, why not me? And then, I left the audition and the casting director like tapped me on the shoulder and whispered, I think it's you. And I was like, what? And then I got back to the hotel and an hour later, then no one called me for an hour. And I was like, did I make that up? And then someone called me and was like, yeah, you got this job.
What was this job? What was the show?
It was a pilot that did not go.
Of course, but we have to have a low point in this moment because
we couldn't just go. No, we couldn't just go.
I mean, you could Ashton Kutcher this the whole, and you're like, and then I never stopped working.
No. It was called LFE, and it was about doctors who partied.
Hilarious. And who was making it? Because did they come back around in the future?
This was really crazy. It was a friend of mine from NYU that I'd gone to theater school with and been in a show with. And his name's Paul Downs Calazo. He also wrote Brittany Runs a Marathon, that movie. And it was his first pilot. And we had lost touch. I don't think I'd seen him in years. And then I think my name popped up as being like tested for, and he was like, I know her. Like, we weren't super close, but we were buds.
Yes.
So that was also such a moment of being like, oh, NYU didn't prepare me for the industry. I felt kind of one of 500 people, but at the same time, like, NYU has come through in a community sense so much in my career. Yeah.
I do think a job is one thing. Our career is our relationships, and our relationships start early on, and you don't know where they're going to lend themselves to. And like you said, it's not like you guys stayed best friends, but there's something about when you choose to go to summer camp, which is what I call shooting a show or making a film. You want to go with people that you know. So of course it's going to shed a good light, unless something,
And also, you never know. Like, I went to acting school with this guy, and then he found writing, he found playwriting, and then he found screenwriting. And it's like, I think at the end of the day, it's such a joy for people to take other people on their ride with them, especially when they're starting out. And you start thinking, why wouldn't you want to do this with your old friend from school versus a stranger? That is, if it all aligns, it's going to make it so much sweeter, basically.
It really does. Okay, so you guys shoot the pilot. Did Juilliard, were you prepared to be on set? I know you're prepared to break down a script and you're prepared for character. How was that crash course?
So what's lovely is I'm still friends with a lot of those people all of the doctors who partied. And it was all of our first pilot, and we called it Stupids Make a Pilot because we were so out of our element, but we didn't want to admit that we didn't know what we were doing, but genuinely. And it was so lovely to have my classmate, Brandon Hall, who I just got to see him do Top Dog Underdog at Pasadena Playhouse. And it was the first time I saw him on stage since school, and I cried. It was really special. But so Brandon and I got to do this experience together, and we would just huddle in a room and be like, so what does it mean when they say your mark? We would just freak out together, and then we'd walk out like, hey, we're ready. But
we're ready to hit our mark.
We're ready. The mark, show it to us. And I remember one time they said first team, and we had no idea what first team, second team, stand-ins. We were just so out of our element, but it was also this beautiful thing that we could hold each other's hands and do this job together and learn like this crash course. It was a 2-week shoot. So we got to be on set pretty much every day and just learn, just fully
Soak it
be
up.
dropped in the pool and just learn on the job. Yeah, I learned a lot. I did not learn everything. I,
Don't you feel like every job brings you a new set of skills and a new set of challenges that you get to be like,
yes.
oh, that's how, once you've been doing it for a while, you're like, oh, I would prefer the way that set did it. But I like how this set does this. It's a
Oh,
different
yeah.
summer camp every time, different egos, different personalities,
I
different.
love that term. I think that is so accurate. It's a different summer camp
It's a
every
different
time.
summer camp. You're like, I'm sorry, I didn't know the rules. Okay, we're co-ed sleeping. Okay, we're
But also in terms of when you would go to camp, it felt so a million things could happen in camp. You would leave camp for 4 weeks and be like, those were the best friends of my
ever.
life. But it was a month, but it's that condensed period of
I think it's hard
intensity.
to explain that to other people unless they're still
Mhm.
in the camp phase of the intensity of, okay, you and I are paying best friends in about 6 to 12 hours next tomorrow. Let's
I
get to
know.
know each other as much as possible. Okay, we're shoved into this small spaces for many
Mm.
hours and then peace.
And it can be it can be like you can make these best friends for a month and then maybe they are your best friends or maybe you'll never see them again, but you're like, we were best friends, or you can fall in love with people
All the
um,
time.
all the time. And then you're like, oh, no, I'm probably not
Now
going
I
to give
love
up
them
my
from
life for that.
afar. Yeah, you're like, that was hot for a second. And now
Yeah, but that was not real life. And it's such a funny thing that we do, go to
it
camp.
it
Go to
really
camp all the
is.
time.
I'm curious after going to camp in the middle of school.
Yeah.
You have to go back to school. I want to ask a few business questions. Does Gersh stay on after the pilot drops you?
So they did, and so I'm not with Gersh anymore, and I think that was the beginning of I think that was the root of our problems was Gersh had been to the plays at our school all year. They did not want to meet with me. I don't know that I would have been with Gersh if this thing hadn't just
Landed.
yeah, this kind of miracle of perfect storms of I'm right for this part. It happened. I'm testing. Here's a contract. And
Yeah, that's probably more the casting director's personal relationship with Gersh versus you
yes.
starting to develop a personal relationship with any
Yes.
of the agents. It even if it was CAA or UTA, no, there's no knocking
Yes.
whatever agency it was, but there's not a coming together.
Mhm.
There's
Exactly.
a necessity, a demand, and I think then it creates a hierarchy.
1,000%. And I think that's what happened. Whereas I did the showcase, I had an agent, but my manager, who's still my manager, came to Kyle Luker. Shout out to my
Shout
manager.
out to God.
Shout out to Kyle. He came and liked my energy and was like, I want
Got
to work
you.
with you. And I think that created our relationship, which was that he saw me and was like, yes, versus this relationship that kind of wasn't able, it's not like they saw me in something and thought the same thing. It was, and
It's a
so
different business deal, and if the business deal
yeah,
is not lucrative, it's going to shift
exactly.
immediately.
Exactly.
So no fault of anybody's, but I think it's good for actors to hear certain
Hmm.
level agencies, if it's a business transaction that they've been put into and or they run like a corporation. So even if you're
Thousand
going
percent.
show to show, CAA could drop you because there's a dollar amount on everybody's head, and that's hard to think of as an
Mhm.
actor where you want things to feel personable. Then I think you have to
Yeah.
seek out the teammates that allow
Yes.
this to seem personable and go the duration.
Yeah. And yeah, and ultimately it's a marathon and you have to
Mhm.
constantly be asking questions of if this works for you. Ultimately, I decided to leave Gersh a few years ago, not for a business reason. They are amazing they are a machine. They're an
They're a great
incredible
television machine. They can, yeah,
TV machine. I just felt like now I'm like tying it back to that comment of I think I am an ensemble person. And I
yeah.
was like, so every element of my life is based on friendship and relationships and me growing in them and me feeling like I'm blossoming. And then there's this one relationship that it's not. And it just felt and it's based on business and it just felt weird. And not to say I think I have more to learn about this as a business and trying to operate as a business, because it is. We're not just making friends. We're not here to make friends.
They don't teach that. They really don't teach that in conservatory or at Juilliard or anywhere. They're teaching you the craft part of it, which is amazing. And if you get to be so lucky to have the opportunity to do your craft for a lifetime or for a career and make money of it, it's so deficient to me, the industry, that part is dropped out. That then they're like, okay, I'm going to go $300,000 in debt, but what's the strategy to make sure I can pay that back? Where's the business acumen to understand how just it works?
1,000%. And that is, I could not agree more.
I wish they did that.
I think,
versus you learning by going from show to show and look, your debt, you're good, you're paid, but
almost. I still have student loans that I am paying off. I am close. It's only the federal ones now. I got rid of the super predatory ones, but I just want to say it takes a long time, and I think I'm going to feel amazing when I send the last payment in. But student loans are just like no joke, and they're crazy. However, I am really grateful for them, because I would not have been able to just afford to write a check and go to any of these schools. So I'm like, I guess that's what I had to do, but that shit is crazy. It's crazy.
Well, let me ask, as far as audition goes, you had a good chunk of time of going in the room. Did having Juilliard stamped on that resume make a difference for your auditions? I don't want to talk about booking jobs or anything, just merely the auditions, how you were treated in auditions.
Okay, so Juilliard has one attempt at teaching you real life skills, and it's a class called The Real World. And this woman named Kathleen McNenny taught it, and she just would choose a different subject every week. And I just remember this one, and I think about this a lot. I think it's very honest advice that she gave us. She said, the Juilliard thing matters for 1 year. You get 1 year. And that's it. And so do whatever you want with that year. But the next year, there's another crop. There's another graduating class. Your time is done. And then it can mean whatever it means in your life, whether that's your training or your friendships or, someone, on set, oh my God, what group were you in? That's so cool. But in terms of the industry, it's that 1 year. And I think that's true.
I think that's so true, which lends itself to first impressions. Look, I didn't go to Juilliard, so I'm going to put myself in the other seat. So I was learning on the job on the audition. So some first impressions that I made were excellent. Some other ones, like you said earlier, I didn't want to wing at this. I wanted to figure it out. If you don't have that conservatory training or the 10,000 hours, you are winging it. And then sometimes your first impressions are not going to be great. So in that year of those auditions, like, what is that one audition where you feel like, oh, Juilliard, my confidence in this opportunity allowed me to plant a seed for my career to start growing?
And I have to say, because I went to NYU and then had 4 years in between, so I experienced the
auditioning.
Yeah, I experienced and I did not have an agent or anything in that time, but I experienced what it's like to not have that fanciness or whatever your impression of Juilliard is on your resume. And it is different. It totally is different. I think, so I ended up booking Crazy Ex-Girlfriend like 2 months after graduation. And it was definitely part of it. I think it'd be ignorant to think that it wasn't.
I wanted to know that audition story because it is so unusual. Did you join though? No, you joined in the first season. You just were a few episodes in, right? Already.
Yeah, you did really good research.
I was like, my brain just went, hold on.
How'd you know? So it was originally a Showtime pilot, and then Showtime did not pick it up, and then they shopped it around and the CW picked it up, but for an hour. So all of a sudden it was on network, so it had to be clean, and it was an hour-long comedy. So they added my character. They were like, she needs a friend. They added my character in that interim. Like the CW wanted another girl.
So when you auditioned, it was already in the hour-long form?
So I could watch the half-hour Showtime pilot for reference, which was great.
Gave you that. Did you have
Yeah,
to ask for that, or did they provide that for you?
No, I think I had to ask for it, or someone,
Good
I
for
think
you.
my manager found it or something. So I got to watch that and get Rachel's tone and her
Fantastic.
brilliance and all, and
Yeah.
just the vibe. And then, but I didn't know what it would look like. Obviously, my character wasn't in the pilot, and I didn't know what the hour would look like. And I was working at like a theater box office at the time, the Park Avenue Armory in New York. And I remember I got the audition. I asked to have a longer lunch break, and I ran over and did it in my lunch break. And I think it was the just being out of school and just being like, I just am gonna. They were throwing a lot of auditions at me that first 6 months out of school just to be like, what sticks? First impressions, who likes or whatever. And I was like, I'm not getting any. I just was like, I'm not going to get any of these. So I just chose like a crazy choice for this audition and was
What
like,
do you deem as your crazy choice?
so it just said my character Heather. It was like she's super cool and she's fascinated and weirded out by Rebecca. And then it was just this first scene. And I was like, I'm gonna like do deadpan and just be like, what are
Okay.
you doing? But that's not me. I was like, I'm gonna just be a character and have fun with it. And
Mhm.
so I walked in, did that, and then yeah, and then ended up doing a callback with Aline Brush McKenna, who's the creator, and Rachel. And in this, and it was a Skype callback.
Oh, even
Yeah,
before we're in the Zoom era.
2015.
Skype chemistry read, essentially, because you're getting chemistry read with your best friend for the
Yeah, but
show.
it wasn't a chemistry read. What it was so weird. It was just a Skype. And then they had a couple notes for me, and then I retaped it with CBS in New York.
Oh, so it's basically a meeting just with them.
Yeah.
Fantastic,
But in
though.
that meeting, speaking of NYU and community, Rachel and I found out we went to NYU at the same time, but did not know each other. But we have all these mutual friends. And that's been the story of our whole friendship is we're like, how did we not know each other? But so in this Skype, because they're like, so you went to Juilliard, and I was like, yeah, but I went to NYU. And Rachel's, I went to NYU. And we just have this moment where we're like, wait, what? And we found out we did the same study abroad program. And so that was, again, NYU coming in, not helping me audition, but helping me with community, like truly.
Secure. And again, you want to work with your community like that.
Yeah.
I really, especially on a comedy, I'm so glad you walked through that because I was so curious. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was something unusual in the hour-long format. We're changing how comedy comes out. So
Yeah.
so incredibly smart of you to be like, get me that half hour so I can figure out tonally at least what they're. That's just a smart actor choice. You can be in juxtaposition to her because that automatically creates the comedy.
Yeah, no, and that I'm so glad you said that because it was so long ago. I like forget the details, but that was another thing. As I was like, because Rachel's energy is so bubbly. She's almost like a little bird. She's just going and I was like, I think it'd be funny if I'm like slow and dry and out by her. And so I think that, and I'm much more. I think I'm like a more physical actor where I'm seeing the shell first and then I'm going inside. And so I think I saw that shell of, yeah, she's slow and judgy and weirded out. And then Rachel gets to be insecure and excited and bubbly and whatever. And that's just funny.
That's the dream. And then you get this. And then because they hired you, I'm sure, was it reoccurring first or was it straight into series?
No, I was
Regular?
a series regular, but I think they called it a
7 out of 13.
fractional. Yeah,
Fractional.
I was like 7 out of 13 or 10 out of 19 or something. So I was in like half the episodes at first. Yeah.
Way to kill that first year out of school, girl.
We tried. We tried.
You did good. You did good. You did good.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From scene study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created The Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
Okay.
We tried. Yeah.
I want to jump to Mr. Mayor because
Oh,
I love that show.
I loved that
so
show.
much. And again, you're going out for a show that we tonally can't really put our hands on right away. You're going in right away on this one. So you're seeing this as a pilot, or were you in just
It was a pilot that was straight to series.
straight to series? Fantastic. So when you got the audition, you're seeing the pilot, but you don't have any other materials now to research off of. I get this question all the time when I'm coaching. I even sometimes
You coach?
I do. Yeah, I love working with actors.
Oh my God. Lots of questions for you.
Comedy's changed. When was Mr. Mayor? 20.
I auditioned in 2019, and then because of COVID, I think it came out in 2021.
Okay. Yeah. But we're starting that whole like grounded comedy. Really like this grounded. And sometimes people don't know where to tonally fit themselves. And then as a series regular for a pilot, it's tonally being shaped by you.
Yeah.
So I would love to know about that audition, or if it was like, whatever, I've been working for forever. I just threw this down.
No. I wish I could be whatever. I don't have the capacity. I'm like constantly.
No, you did many
out.
years of school to be able to do this. So I feel like also, I don't want to speak for you, but also having a load behind you, a suitcase full of debt.
Yeah.
I would think that it would make you be like, no, we're going to do this.
Yeah. Once I realized how much debt I was in and I started actually looking at my bank statements, I was like, oh, it is a miracle that I tripped and fell into a TV and film career because I have to do this.
Yes.
There's no option. I wanted to do like experimental theater in New York, and that wasn't going to work.
It's not going to pay the bill.
That's not your path.
Not
so
today.
Yeah, feel very lucky that I get to work in film and TV. But so Mr. Mayor, yeah, I mean, I saw Tina Fey, Robert Carlock, Ted Danson, and was like, oh my God, like that would be amazing. And I think I did a total of 4 auditions. It was a pretty long process over about 4 months. And I just wanted it. And that doesn't happen very often for me because which I'm working on in therapy, I have very low expectations of my whole life. And so I just don't ever think, oh, I could have this, or, oh, this is for me. I'm just like, I'm not going to get this. But it was one of those jobs where I read it and I was like, oh my God, I would love to do this. Like, this would be so great. I was, lucky enough to get a call back. And then the callback was with Tina. And
Tina's in the room.
Yeah. And I was just like, my only goal, I was like, I don't need to get this part. I want to make her laugh. I just need a little chuckle or something. And I think we were supposed to go in, do the scene, and then maybe do a little improv at the end. And I don't consider myself an improver, but I can do maybe a little. Yeah, I never studied it or anything. I've never done long form improv or UCB or Second City or anything, but I can do a little bit, like a little word or two at the end of scenes. And so I just remember they were pairing us up with people because my character had a doppelganger, or a little kind of sidekick. The two of us were together a lot. And so they were pairing us up with different people. And so I went in, I think, twice. And I think one of my little improvs, she like chuckled. And I was like, I did it. Like,
That's all you needed to do.
Yeah, I did it. And so I was over the moon. And then actually, I don't normally talk about this, but this feels like the right
This is
place.
the time.
I was with Gersh, and which is great about them, they're very focused on money. And they didn't think that the fee was high enough. So I was supposed to test, and I'm like so close. It's the night before. And actually this is a whole other thing, but my dad had passed away like 4 days before or something. So I'd been through that, and then I was going to test, and I was like, oh my God, I like get to test for the show. And then the morning of, because a lot of times these contract things can take up to the second. So 2 hours before, they go, don't go in. You're not going to go in to test. It's not enough money. And I was like, oh. And it was like, they were like, this is important. Like, you can't show up, because if you show up, there's no wiggle room. But what happened was they just were like, okay. So I didn't test, and it wasn't like they came running back that day. It was just okay.
So that was like at that point, because I've had friends that have sat in a parking lot before and gotten the same phone call where they're like, leave. And then it's an argument where you're like, what do you mean? I cannot leave.
I know.
No, you have to value yourself. So
But
at
it's
that point,
I think I was putting my makeup on. I was like getting ready to go. And then it was just like, oh, this isn't happening. And then it seemed, oh, this just isn't happening. And I was just devastated. And I guess I knew, I was like, I guess this is how you value yourself and get what you're worth and all this stuff. But at the same time, I would act for free if I'm being honest. And I did. Like last night, I did this 24-hour play thing. I act for free all the time. So it's really hard to be like, there's this show with some of your idols and you can't do it because this insane amount of made up TV money is not enough. It does feel crazy. So then it went away and it was so weird because usually when I don't get a job, I go into it's not going to be good anyway, or I make myself feel better by talking shit about the thing, even though it's not, it's me. But I didn't do that with this show for whatever reason. I was like, it's going to be great. It's still going to be a great show. And I wish I could have been a part of it. And I would have dreams that I would see Ted in the trailer, in the makeup trailer. And then I was like, oh, but that's not mine. It's okay. And then I think a month later, my manager ran into David Miner, who's Tina's producer. And they were like, we still haven't found the part yet, actually. Would Vella still do it? And he called me and I was like, yes. And they were like, we can pay her like $2,000 more. And I was like, yeah. Yes, like, yeah. And so I got to go in and test again a month later and then miraculously got to do it.
Hallelujah. If it's for you, will find you. It doesn't matter how many potholes you can fall into, how many times you can mess up in that room. I think when you're meant to tell a story, and I don't mean that to be so like dramatic. I just truly do believe that the right instruments, for the most part, doesn't always happen that way, but I'd say 95% of the time, you're like, that makes sense.
I think that's really beautiful. And it's something I need to also just remind myself of. And I remind my friends of too, that just like whatever is supposed to be yours will come to you. And if it's not meant to be yours, there's nothing to be mad at because it was someone else's thing that then is part of their story. And they get to say that was my thing. And it's really hard to remind yourself of, or just to remember that sometimes because you're like, I thought that was mine. But I truly think every job I've gotten, I'm like, that was mine for sure. And all these hundreds of other jobs I haven't gotten were not.
The ones that you're like, this is, whenever I say, this is for sure mine, I'm like, God,
no, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it wasn't.
And the ones that I'm like, I don't know, whatever, I'll go have fun. I don't think it's going to do anything. Those are the ones. Those are the ones.
I know.
It's the psychology of pressure. I think it's the psychology of pressure. That's what I've never said that even, but I think that's what it is.
I think so too. Yeah.
When you want something, you're choking it. So like, how can great creative expression, discoveries, making Tina laugh come out if you're like, I'm going to get this? You wouldn't have been able to make Tina laugh. You wouldn't have.
Yeah. It's like you have to have a little breathing room or something with it to let it come to you. Because you wouldn't really want a job that you had to like choke, like grip away
especially
into.
You're doing mostly comedy, and that's okay. I want to know if in Juilliard or if in practice you're like, oh yeah, comedy's my jam, because you said you didn't go to improv, you didn't do anything, but look at the shaping of your whole career, and because I'm curious if that was something specific, and if not, then what do you start learning? Like, you got Ted Danson, you've got Tina Fey as a producer, you've got Holly Hunter, because then you step into animal control. So you have to start seeing yourself as being like, oh, I'm that great, or you're more of the straight character, the sarcastic character, the anchoring person in opposition of the person with the aha comedy, the one that's hitting it out. Have you started to see where you're landing?
Yeah, to answer that question, I did not see myself as a comedy person. I personally, Vella, I've used humor as a huge coping mechanism. And also it's just always made me personally happy to make people I'm in a room with laugh. So I love laughter. So there's that. But I don't know. I think I was thinking I would be a dramatic theater actor. And the comedy thing is a total surprise. However, I do think, weirdly, again, full circle, my music background, being a pianist, like comedy actually is just music in a way. And
100%.
yeah, and it's timing, and it's just figuring out music, or the sheet music almost, that different comedy writers write with, and what the tone is. And if you start to listen to it, you can hear it, and you can hear how they're playing the song and where your note as a character comes in, if that makes sense.
It 100% does, because I think that there's two ways into comedy. So I was going to ask, when you audition or where you're prepping a character, are you somebody that's scoring your comedy? Like some people that are going to these comedy schools, so here's a reversal. Oh, I'm going to pitch up here. This is a build here, blah, 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 blah. Versus somebody who's piano trained and can just hear it. I
hear it.
You hear it. You can hear
it. I was like, I gotta go back to school, because what is the reversal?
But how wonderful. That's where you're like, your mom hounding you.
Yeah.
You will be the piano. You're playing piano weekly.
Oh,
I'm actually
gonna cry. That's actually really beautiful, because I think there was I felt like I was letting her down so much when I was like, I'm not gonna pursue piano. And I'm like, oh yeah, I am. I totally am. It's just in a different way.
You're scoring all the time. So then I wanna pick into Animal Control, another ensemble. Talk about scoring a script, or it's like you're playing jazz. You're not playing piano in Animal Control. Everybody kind of almost has their version of comedy in that show.
I think you're so right. So it's interesting coming from Crazy Ex, where, if we're gonna go with this music metaphor, I was a lower note, and I knew when to come in. And then Mr. Mayor, Tina and Robert's writing it's so funny and truly tickles me to the bone. But it's like 10 jokes in 10 lines. It's just three jokes. Like, you're not stopping for laughs. It's just like joke. And so I got to Animal Control, and I was operating at that level just because it was, I think, still in my body. And I was a little bigger, and I was just going like, and Rob Greenberg, who's one of our showrunners on the pilot, came up to me and was like, so everything you're thinking is correct, but you're at like a 7, and can you just take it down to a 3? And I was like, oh, interesting. And that was a little scary, because I realized I was used to operating at a 7. And so it was a good kind of lesson in trying to take, it's a little bit, at least my character I'm not operating at a 10.
You're the straight
person.
I'm a little so much
straight.
stuff is bouncing off of you. That's when I watched the show, I was like, oh, and that's sometimes the hardest instrument to play in jazz. Like, you're in different albums. Like Mr. Mayor is a totally different album, right? And now you're coming in. So that's why I was curious.
Exactly.
Did you have to audition for Animal Control?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that was in COVID, so that's the only thing I've booked off of a self-tape. Fun fact. Yeah, booked that off of, and never again and never before.
Well, you're busy. You're booked and blessed. So but as far as sending in the tape, because I think this is helpful for actors versus getting on the day and doing did you turn in a tape that was a 7?
No, and I think I didn't, weirdly, even though that was my instinct on set. And again, with kind of what we're saying with the no pressure, that was a tape that I got the info for. I was going to New York, I think, the next day, and I was like, and it was one of those things where I was like, I should do this tape in the next hour. So I did not, for the first audition, I did not read the script. I just read my scene and was like, I just need to throw this on tape in an hour. And so I just was like memorizing to throw on tape so I could go to New York and not have to worry about doing an audition on my trip. So I honestly did not think twice I was like, I'm not getting this, because I just need to send it in. And then for the callback was on Zoom, which is, I do not love.
It's a difficult place to sometimes audition. Yeah.
Yeah. And the callback was on Zoom. And by that time I'd read the script. I was like, oh, this is so great. I love the writing. And yeah. And then I got the part, and then had to do all my chemistry reads with the guy playing opposite with me on Zoom. And we found Michael Rowland like on Zoom, and we did all of our auditions and stuff over Zoom. Crazy.
What was the one thing that you learned to do and to not do over Zoom because so many people are doing Zoom chemistry now, and it's an
I
interesting
know.
beast.
It's so weird. And I feel like I learned so much from watching. And I really want in-person auditions to come back. I'm like trying to start a movement. But I used to love being a reader. Like that would hands down teach me like the most, more than me doing it by myself, especially now by myself in my house. It's like I just want to watch people. So getting to be on the side of I'm the constant and I'm chemistry reading with these other people, it was really fascinating. And for my money, I will say, I think the people this is so technical, the people whose faces were bigger, like me and you, versus the people who like stood up and were back, you just feel more connected to because you just can see their face and you can hear them.
Yeah.
Which is so annoying and technical, but
and you would think that it would be almost common sense, but yeah, you can utilize your frame to give chemistry. You lean in, I lean in.
Yes.
There's so many beautiful things we can play with,
like,
but we don't practice
and
Zoom
stuff.
chemistries a lot. We just don't. Like,
and it's even crazy. It's looking at this weird green dot to like actually be like, okay, if I really want to give, and having your script on the computer versus down here, because all you have is like your face. And so just utilizing that, oh, if I'm looking here, the person watching is going to actually feel like I'm connecting with them versus, yeah, you need to read your script, but then I'm totally disconnected from you. So I think stupid technical stuff like that can make a huge difference of just feeling like you saw the person or you just got a read of the person.
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It'll be interesting to see what the next project is that you think you're not going to get and that you're going to.
Yeah,
it's been a rough. I'm definitely not getting this, and then you.
I know the theme is. I'm just like convinced I'm not, but that's back to the imposter syndrome that we started this conversation with. Is I still feel like an imposter. I still feel like I'm not gonna get any job, and that I'm gonna be found out. I do though. I think with what we were saying with the Juilliard stuff, I do sometimes just have to go through my resume and be like, I've done things. I've been on sets. I like, you do know these things. Like you think you don't, but
you 100% know.
They're in your body somewhere.
Yeah, and I think I love that skill. Like Adam Shapiro, friend of the pod, that is his thing, that before he would go in for auditions, he would just sit and stare at his resume. He's like, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. You can go in there and you can do this again. Because it's just our way, our brains, just an interesting way of playing tricks on us. We have just a few more minutes if you're down for it, just some rapid fire questions. When you get a script, other than reading it for an audition, what is the first couple of things you do to start picking at it and doing some script analysis?
When I get a script, oh my gosh. I used to not do this, but except for my animal control audition, I read the whole script. So I think that I used to try to get away with that, not reading the script, but no, I read it. And then I think I just do the thing of finding everything everyone says about the character. And then I pick just where it lives in my body, I think. Like I find a physical thing.
Going through a physical thing. That's so interesting. I love hearing your process and seeing your resume and you being like, I wasn't really thinking comedy. But to me, that is so, once you embody it and it's in your body, to me, that's more physical. To me, that's more comedic versus trying to do this drama stillness.
That's so interesting.
Wow. I find that interesting too. It's usually at the end of these, I'm like, look at this pattern. Look at this pattern.
There's patterns.
We all have patterns. And sometimes it's harder for us to see them.
Yeah,
until we're sitting in a situation like this. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just flinging myself through space, but I guess in a pattern way.
You've got a great pattern going on.
Okay.
When you get an audition, who do you call first?
My husband, to ask him his schedule because I will be taping everything with him. I'm like, okay, are you available in an hour?
Is he an actor as well?
Yeah. We met doing a play. So we've done just every self-tape with each other. And I think we have a good pattern with it. We used to get in fights, but we don't anymore. So improvement. Yeah.
As a 2-actor household, what is your limits for the amount of takes that you can do?
I probably should be better at this. I am like a 1 take, 2 take. I do not want to do it a lot of times, which maybe sometimes you should do it a little more, but you can get into, you can spend hours of your life just doing this. And on set, you're not going to have a million times to do it. So it's more natural to what you'll actually do is 1 to 2, maybe 3 times if I mess something up. But I'm like let's get this done person.
I think that's the smartest way to train.
Again, I've only booked one thing off of something.
Again, because you've been working, girl. Okay, so when your team calls you as a whole, are you the person that goes, oh shit, I'm being fired? Oh, I got it.
I would say, so my new agency is super communicative, which was my number one thing that I wanted. And so I used to, though, just out of habit, I would pick up the phone and think either something was wrong and I was getting fired or I got a job. Like I thought it was just extremes. And now they called me the other day to be like, so we might know about animal control in May. And I was like, okay, that could have been an email, but I'm glad to talk to you.
Talk to you too.
Yeah. So I'm learning like more healthy communication, but I used to be those extremes. And I guess I wouldn't know. I guess I would think
I think it's funny because some people are like, oh no, they're calling. I'm like, why would you think that? I always, when they call and I'm like, yes. When they go, hold on 1 second, we're getting somebody. I'm like, yes, okay, cool. Yeah. Here. Thank you.
Yeah. Now my team is hold on. And I'm like, and they're like, how is your Wednesday?
I'm like, get to it. Yeah. How do you celebrate? How have you celebrated every time you've been given the honor of going on a ride?
Oh, I love that. I think, first of all, I think it's really important to celebrate. And I think, and not just the big wins, but I think it's really important to celebrate the little wins. If you get a callback, if you get good feedback, if you get asked to audition by the same casting director again or the same show, because this business is so hard and it's so long and it can beat you down. And I think I'm just a firm believer that if you don't celebrate those things, that your little happy child self will get sad. So I just think it's important to not just be like, whatever, I don't know, I didn't get it. So no, please celebrate at every moment. How do I celebrate? Probably food. I'm into eating and food and restaurants and stuff.
That's the best place to do it, I think.
Yeah, or a special treat. I actually used to have a thing where when I was doing in-person auditions, that I would, after an in-person audition, I would have a treat. It's like just something like a nice little fun thing, like a nice latte or a cookie or like a bagel.
I'm so with you on that. Yes. Because I was going to ask, how do you recover? Because sometimes I'm like, I'm going to go to the Olympic spa and I will be there for the next 4 hours.
Love that.
I can get all these emotions.
Like after you shoot?
Yes, after I shoot, but also when I don't get something or when I'm like, I've put a month into this. I've really attached.
Yeah.
And it might not go my way or it didn't go my way. Do you have recovery for yourself or do you not really attach?
No, I do. And I'm realizing I don't do anything with it and it just sits in my body and eats away at me. But actually at Juilliard, they do try to teach you that. They are like, I can't remember. They have a term for it. Clearing out, I think they call it, but it's the same thing. And I'm realizing I don't do that. And I probably should because you can forget that it's been taxing.
It's been taxing. Or yeah, it's just a wide range of emotions depending on what the character is. Okay. What do you do between setups? On set between setups. What's your go-to distraction?
Yeah, on animal control, if we're all on set, those are my favorite days because we're just like being really dumb with each other. And Grace Palmer, who is on animal control, we're super close now and she's just like the funniest person ever. And we're just, I don't know, just joking around. Also, what's really nice about animal control is there's cats and dogs around. So if you're like, I don't know what to do for this 3 minutes, you can go pet a cat, which is great.
Especially if it's a high stress situation. Okay, that was gonna be my next question. Doing a comedy, do you find pressure in between moments to be funny? Are you having a good time? Because I've asked a lot of people, and it's if you're shooting a horror film, it's like they call cut and everybody's laughing. You're shooting a comedy, sometimes you'll cut and people are really intense because they're like, is this funny? Is this working? Where do you land?
I think all of us in the cast and Animal Control have had multiple moments of being like, I'm terrible. This is not going well because especially with a single cam, you're not getting laughter right after the joke. It's the best when we make each other laugh. I think we tend to use each other as that barometer. And I'm a big believer in if someone's doing really good work and you notice that no, they're not getting feedback, I'm just like, just so you know, you're killing it and you're so good because that feedback loop is important, especially with comedy. Because if you feel like you're drowning and no one thinks you're funny, it just gets worse and worse.
It does. It becomes that mental tornado. Then that's great. It would be amazing to be a guest on Animal Control to have people
I
supporting
feel
you
like
that
it's
way.
it's a really good set. Like we've been told, I'm like patting myself on the back. We've been told that we're a fun set to guest star on, and that's honestly like the biggest compliment because that just means because we should be holding it down so that you guys can come on and have fun and shine.
It's the fun house. Whatever house you're building as the series regulars, that's what we get to come be a guest in. If you're making it fun, then anybody that comes is going to have a good time.
Yeah, and that's really important to me as someone who's guest starred, co-starred, been an extra, is just creating like a really warm, comfortable environment because I think no one's going to do good work in that pressure situation where it's like people are staring at the monitor. Are they going to nail it? It's like for me, I would melt and I have melted and I think I flourish in encouraging environment.
Yeah.
So that's my wish as any show that I'm on is that it's
That it feels like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. I think that's so important just to have this show also sustain itself. Your guest stars, other than, well, it makes the show. Last question. Best rap gift that you've either given or received? Since you've gone to camp a lot, you've been to a lot of cool camps since we're going with the camp analogy here.
A lot of good summer camps. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is hard. I'm going to say the tried and true beanie. I'm going to say tried and true beanie. As you have on.
As I have on the other black girl beanie. I love
Oh my God. That's literally a rap beanie.
Yes, this is a wrap beanie that I'm wearing right now.
Incredible. Because I was thinking, what are the things that I actually wear? And they're wrap beanies for sure. And it's simple. It keeps your head warm. And then you get to look at the show and be like, oh,
I think about it often. Yeah.
Yeah. I think about it and fondly. Yeah, the sweatshirts I think have to stop because
the sweatshirts and t-shirts have to stop.
They have to stop.
I've gotten a cool like phone charger, those mobile phone chargers.
That's
brilliant.
Good.
Brilliant.
Good.
You know, like little things that are helpful.
Yeah.
This was a delight. You're truly a delight to watch and to speak to and to have your sensibility constantly be like, whatever, I don't know, I'm not going to get this, has really produced great television, great entertainment, great shows to be a part of. So keep doing you. Where can everybody?
Thank you so much. And I just have to say thank you for being so lovely and making the show because it's really necessary. And and thanks for making me cry 4 times.
Please go tell your mom you've been playing piano
I
like a
will.
beast. You've been killing it. Where can everybody follow along with you on Instagram? You're on Instagram, right?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and like Threads and all the things at Vella Lovell, my first and last name. I think I'm pretty easy to find. So, yeah.
And people can go watch Animal Control. What's the one thing you wish people would go watch that doesn't get a lot of attention that you've done?
That I've done?
Yes.
It is this show that I only guest starred, I recurred on, but I think it's the most beautiful show. It's called As We See It. And it only got 1 season. It was on Amazon, and it's about 3 young adults on the autism spectrum that are living on their own with a caretaker for the first time. And it was Jason Katims that did Friday Night Lights.
Oh, I love him.
It's the most beautiful show, and I still don't know why it got canceled. It was one of those things, and just the actors on that show were incredible, and the crew, it was a lot of people on the spectrum, on the crew, on the cast. It was just like an incredible set to be a part of. And Sue Ann, who was one of the actors, I just did her short film like last year, and she's a star, and it just was one of those really special sets. And I'm a tiny part. I'm one of the characters' brothers' girlfriends, but I just think it's a beautiful, genuinely beautiful show.
I'm so glad I asked.
Prime.
I think sometimes there's so much good content out there now, but anything that Dan Fogelman or Jason Katims does, it pulls on everything.
Your heart, like you're laughing and then you're crying and then you're rooting for these people. And yeah, it's one of those things that I can't believe it didn't get another season, but I still think the one season is worth watching.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this. Come back. You should come back. We'll talk more.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm trying
It was so lovely.